Hey, welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart. You know, oftentimes when I'm sitting down and meeting knee to knee with agents, I say the word system and they start to light up. And I think because real estate agents tend to be very excited about growth, very entrepreneurial, consistency tends to be a weak spot of theirs. And so I'm more than excited today to have on a guest who is truly an expert at helping agents be consistent, put the systems in place to help them be able to have the life and business that they want. So I'm excited to welcome today Lars Hedenborg. Lars, first and foremost, before I give kind of a full bio on you, I appreciate you being on the show today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is the one thing, I almost see sometimes the opposite effect when I mention systems to real estate agents. They feel a feeling of overwhelm, almost like what's a system? Like I'm not a systems person, like enlighten me as to what a system is. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, very good. So for those that don't know Lars, let me just give a little background on him. Lars actually in your first year of business closed 71 homes. Yet that came at a price. It came being away from his family and realizing like, I can't do this forever. I can hustle for a year and prove the fact that I can sell a lot of real estate. But at the end of the day, you were short on time and you wanted the ability to have both, right? To have success and significance, a great work life and a great home life. Continuing on, Lars scaled his business to where now his team produces over $100 million a year consistently. And he's found some tricks, some systems, to say the least, that have propelled him and his business to the next level. As a result, he's actually developed a whole school around this, Real Estate B School, B being just the single letter B. I'm going to put that up here on the screen now. So any that are curious about that, I'm going to put that up here, Real Estate B School. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But Lars, I want to thank you again for being on the show today, being on the Think Bigger Real Estate, being a big thinker yourself, and helping those of us in the audience think bigger. So thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. And you nailed it in the intro in terms of 2007, 2008. I was married in October 2006. We had our first child in November 2007. And I realized early on that every part of a real estate agent's job, like 90% of it, could be done via a system and a lower level person, not in an ugly kind of way, lower level, but
less skilled, right?
Yeah, systems were out of the gate. I was just like, well, if I want to make, my number was $250 an hour. If I want to make $250 an hour for a full 2,000 hours a year, right? I wanted to make at least $500,000 to me and the government. There was 90% of it. I had to build out a system and have someone else run it. And systems are everything in the business. Like anything that you do more than once a month is a system. And a lot of times agents don't like to think it's that simple. If you're doing something personally and you're the real estate agent and you're doing it more than, let's start with the weekly stuff. You're doing it more than 2, 3, 4 times a week. You need to put that into a document and make it so someone else can do it. And that really, for me, that's been like 99% of everything we do. And I just have a consultant role in the business now.
Interesting. There is definitely a lack of consistency, and I think, again, when you, as mentioned before, when you work with entrepreneurial people, I believe, move the world, have the ability to change the world. The downside is that they tend to be very easily distractible, and they're high performers and can produce very significant results for short bursts of time, and oftentimes lack the organization skills to be able to do that consistently, which causes them to not have the long-term impact that they want. Lars, let's talk a little bit about the systems that you think real estate agents need to start with, or one of the a few of the big missed systems that you feel like real estate agents could really implement and have the most amount of impact.
Yeah. So I'm going to give like probably more than 10 seconds, but real big. The business is our ability to attract buyers and sellers, convert those into face-to-face and clients, deliver a differentiated service. And then there's a few things in scaling the business, creating your future, knowing your numbers, and growing your team. So there's a little bit more complicated in scale. But when it comes to attracting buyers and sellers, what got us here isn't going to get us there. So, you better make sure you have your database locked down and you're actually doing something of value on a regular basis where, we'll do 3.6 million this year and 1.4, 1.5 from a database of about 1,800 people will come from that part of it. And we spend, we'll probably only spend about $30,000 to generate that amount of GCI this year.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
And it's all because we just preloaded what we do in terms of social, in terms of content, in terms of events and giveaways. And it's run by someone who makes about $20 an hour. And it's only part of that person's job for the entire year. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's all preloaded. So we have 93 social things that happen in a given year. We have 57 sort of content pieces that go out. We do an e-newsletter. And she just pings me when she needs a video or a market update or a funny video for my family. She kind of gets some leeway in that, but that's a system that runs. And then we feed the database. We, as team leaders, especially, we forget that our database is really valuable. That's $1 million year over year pillar in your business. And do you have a system to add 2 new contacts a day to your inner circle database? Super simple. But nobody actually does it. I've yet to meet a team leader that actually focuses on the database on a regular basis.
I love how you simplified that, Lars. And I think, again, the brightest minds in business have the ability to take the complex and turn it into something super simple. And what you said is attract the business, follow up with the business, service the business, right? Those are 3. And the 4th was just the kind of the ancillary systems you need to actually scale a business. Is that what I understood? Was that kind of the 4th?
Yeah. So so when we start working with a new client in the coaching business, it is really making sure they have the attract, convert, deliver rock solid, but in a way where they're not in it. Mm-hmm. So we need to attract folks to the business, convert them, and then deliver an amazing service in a way where there's probably 12 to 18 core systems in just those 3 pillars. And once we do that, then the team leader can focus on scaling. And scaling is making sure you have a solid 3-year plan, making sure you know your numbers, and making sure you know how to grow your team, the culture stuff, the attracting new talent, and those sorts of things. A lot of folks want to scale their business, but the attract, convert, deliver is a complete shit show. And it relies 100% on them to have that ACDC, attract, convert, deliver, and then get a commission check. Mm-hmm. And you need to make sure that core part is running systematically. And just ask yourself every day, like, what did I put my hands in today? That's a system I can create. Do the systems work, because that's worth $1,000 an hour, and don't do the actual work.
Interesting. It's like working on the business as opposed to working in the business, right? I mean,
First book I read when I got introduced into real estate was E-Myth. And that book, it doesn't teach you anything. Classic. Yeah. And but it has stuck with me, the profound realization that, if I'm working in the business, it's never going to have a life of its own. So I need to we as entrepreneurs, the kiss of death is that we need to slow down to be managers. Managers build systems and have people run the systems. Until we can have other people manage for us, we need to be the manager, and some of us, just our comfort is in being the technician I could just go out and take listings. I'll sell 150 homes a year. And nobody really wants that 7-day of life sort of existence. So,
well, it's interesting, that book. I agree with you. That book had a profound impact on me, and I see that showing up so much. I come out of the general contracting world. I was a general contractor, high-end luxury contractor for a number of years, and it was interesting how that was so common, right? Is you'd have people coming out of the trades who were very good technicians, and they immediately thought because they were a good technician that they'd be a good business owner, and it's a totally different skill set. And like you said, there's a reluctance oftentimes when someone even has the opportunity to scale a business, is that they have a hard time letting go of the technician component, right? Like what I hear you saying is that in order to be a great leader, in order to be a great manager of the systems and designer, developer of the systems, you actually have to start to let go of the technician. You shouldn't have feet in both camps. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yeah, at the very least, if you want to have the semblance of a real business in the world of real estate, it's something as simple as getting a showing agent. Like, there's no way any of us that want to scale a business should be working evenings and weekends showing homes to buyers. There's like 100 agents in our market center. At worst case, we can hire hourly to do that. We'll do 3.6 million, but we're at a point this year where we have someone outside of our team helping us to show homes, because we're a player short in that position. But we're so committed to our buyer agents and our lead agents not showing homes ever that we're going to look to fill that position with anyone else, because it's honestly a low level task. It's not rocket science to open a door, and that's not where the real value comes from. So yeah, it's just thinking about like what you want for your business. If you want to make $500,000 and you're going to do all the production yourself, you're never going to do it with a life. And one more thing I want to mention, it's the real passion of these sorts of things and spreading the word is like the measure of success to me in business is time, money, and stress. Where is your time your own? Do you have anything to show for your efforts financially, and do you have a plan to create wealth around what you're doing? And then are you stressed all the time? Are you bringing that stress into other areas of your life? And, just check yourself on that every 90 days, time, money, and stress. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? We've had guys in our industry think that suicide was a better option than living the life that they had, and how does that happen? Right? A guy at the top of his game that thinks suicide is a better option than being in his life, and so that's the real passion, is just make sure your time, money, stress is in check. And if it's not, and you're growing and it's out of control, just stop the presses, just slow down. And it's usually a systems issue that, stuff's not happening or you're doing everything because you don't have systems.
And one thing that I think a lot of real estate agents come to the realization, or if they haven't, hopefully they will, in hearing you speak about this, which is it's different than having a high producing job than it is to having a high producing business. And I think so many, they forget the fact that, and some may want a high producing job, right? And that's the life they want. And all power to you. But if you want a business, it looks different than a job. And I think what you're describing is the template and the mentality and mindset of producing a business that, especially in an industry that demands so much after hours, that if you want a business, you have to be able to work during business hours and have other systems, tools, and people support the needs of the customers outside of those business hours.
Yeah, that's right. And don't overthink it and don't overcomplicate it. Our theme this year is to simplify to multiply. It's really basic. We want to meet with buyers and meet with sellers. And that's it. Like, what are we doing every day to set those consultations and to actually get face-to-face and convert them into clients and then activate listings? There's only about 4 data points that we track in the business to know that we're on track. And I think a lot of folks just complicate it and they think it's something different than what it actually is. And it's not. It's a real simple business. But then, I talk about attract, convert, deliver. In deliver, the game is changing where you're not even going to be in the business 3 to 5 years from now, or maybe even less, if you're not pushing real hard toward, in my opinion, high touch, high service. Look at a dozen other industries that have been displaced with technology and changing business models. So what systems do you have in place to make sure your buyers and sellers, when they're clients, they get a world-class experience? And those are just checklists. It's simple.
I'm in the process right now of finishing up an ebook on how to become more of an advisor than a salesman. And I totally agree with you 100% as I've dug into the research of what people really respect and are willing to pay for when it comes to professional. And it's kind of what you discussed. There has to be a dedicated, intentional effort to produce higher value than what the standard is. And people will pay for that. And what we're seeing in the industry as a result of all this massive investment from venture capital and Wall Street to produce technology is that the general consumer base doesn't feel like real estate agents produce enough significant value, that it can only be done by a human. Therefore, they're trying to take it on them or take it away from them. Yet I strongly believe that there's going to be a very profitable space for those that push the envelope on creating new value for consumers and becoming more of an advisor than just someone who can open a door and sell people something.
Yeah, I'm a big LegalZoom.com consumer. I've set up a bunch of entities and I've set up a nonprofit, but I've also paid $500 an hour for an attorney in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So there's just going to be a smaller pie available to true advisors. Mm-hmm. And the class action lawsuit right now against 20 of the largest MLS in our country is proof that, that whole side is going away. If you can't sit down with a buyer and prove to them that you're worth $15,000 to represent them over the next 60 days, you're going to be out of the business. Yeah. Or you're going to be irrelevant, or you're going to do whatever they'll pay you $15 an hour to open doors. So.
And you shouldn't be taking that kind of money if you can't prove the value, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the consumer is going to win. We live in an era where consumers have more power than ever before. And if it's not just like a smoke and mirrors, like if you actually don't provide more value than you charge, then like there's a reckoning day, right?
Yeah. And luckily we're in an industry where these little mini monopolies, these MLSs have protected us forever. Yeah. And it's going to change. And I hope it doesn't, because I think there's just an awesome opportunity for folks that are really good at what we do and building. I think the future, I think it is teams either working for a really good team. Then there's no shame in that. All of our team members are world-class. But I think there's I don't know if you follow Matt Johnson. He had a podcast episode called The Mushy Middle. There's going to be all the technology that is all the discount stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be the high-end service providers. And then there's going to be this middle where it's going to be a lot of commission discounting and, just not a lot of great stuff going on in there. So I don't want to be in there.
Yeah. It's going to be a bloody red ocean.
Yep.
Final question, kind of signature question for the show, Lars, which should be fairly easy for you to come up with, but what's something that you do on a regular basis to intentionally think bigger, to expand your own possibilities, and in the theme of what you're up to, the possibilities of other people?
So something intentional. I mean, I've been really consistent with, there's a few things come to mind. But my morning, what I do with my morning, it's sort of an easy answer. But I get in the Bible every day. I do a meditation on a scripture every day. I get my body moving every day. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And then I'm constantly surrounding myself with people that are really helping me become the best version of myself. And that's just something I'm really focused on. I think God has this awesome plan for me, and I just need to keep showing up as the best version of myself to help him realize his plan for me, and not, there's always turmoil, it feels like, in business. And if there's not, you're probably not doing something right. And just to realize none of it's related. Like I have issues, like 8 different issues going on in 2 different businesses, and they're all not related to each other, so just be the calm in the middle of it all. Yeah. And then one last thing, just think long game. I'm 45. I'm probably going to be in business till 66 is my hope. And so there's 21 years. I have 21 years to be in this game. And the whole point of the game is to stay in the game. Yeah. It's not to grow next year for no reason whatsoever, like growth for growth's sake. It's grow to serve others, So that's kind of some thoughts around that.
Powerful stuff, man. Yours and my mornings sound very similar, kind of bringing in a spiritual component, which gives me purpose and grounding and what this is all about, right? So I can impact people for good. So I appreciate what you shared. I think it's super powerful. I'm going to put it here up on the screen, Lars. I know you're a busy guy and have to jump to your next commitment. So let me go ahead and put up here. If people want to learn more about Lars, I highly recommend you do. He's got what's called the Real Estate B School. He actually offers kind of a free business growth strategy session at REBSstrategysession.com. I'll put that in the notes as well. Reach out to Lars. He's a guy that if you're tired of your real estate job and you'd rather have a business, you want to implement systems, whether it's to scale the level that he has and or just simply to scale up so you get some evenings and weekends back. You start to think more like a business owner. This is a guy you ought to be following. He also has a podcast called the Business Freedom Podcast. Look him up. Obviously, a very bright guy with some big accomplishments. Lars, I want to thank you again for your time, for being on the show and pouring into the Think Bigger real estate audience.
Yeah, awesome. Let me know if I can ever do anything for you too.
Okay, man. I really appreciate it. And we're going to sign off. Thanks, everyone.